Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mission Debrief. My name is Alex.
And I'm Haley.
And we are actually, a little surprise. We are recording from the new headquarters. It is being pieced together.
Yes, so we decided instead of being helpful with the move, we're going to record a podcast.
Yeah, so we're here recording a podcast. Mission 148, we just partook in. This is episode number 14. Like I said, my name is Alex, and you have Haley here, the Mission Debrief, the last flight of the season. This episode, as well as the rest of the episodes, season 1 and season 2, are sponsored by
Specialty Gas House.
A bunch of great individuals, an amazing store, an amazing purpose.
Which this is a great time of year to be considering Specialty Gas House because the holiday season is coming up. Maybe dad needs a grill, which is, super stereotypical.
What if mom needs a grill?
I was going to say mom might need a grill, or you yourself might want a grill, or gas logs for your fireplace. I mean, they sell more than just grills. But one of my favorite gifts that I would consider getting for my dad, or maybe even my grandpa would like that, is the grilling classes. So consider that as well. They have a whole bunch of different. We've talked about their spices before. We've gone to their cookout. We know that they know what they're doing over there. So definitely check them out. And then speaking of sponsors, this flight, Mission 148, was sponsored by Nationwide.
That's right. And we had a bunch of Nationwide individuals on this flight. I took a group shot, and they were actually, like I said, there was quite a few. I did not know.
A couple rows.
A couple rows until we got into World War II, and we took a special group picture with just the Nationwide folks and their veterans. I did not know there was that many stacked up on a flight. So,
well, and something that's pretty cool also I'll say about the Nationwide volunteers is that a lot of them are not, when we have sponsors that come, usually it's like one or done, or they come with that sponsor whenever that sponsor sponsors. It's not always true. But it seems like with Nationwide, there are several of them that volunteer with us year round and not just on flights. Like you've got Miranda, who does a lot of merchandise stuff with Judy. She does outreach stuff. She does mail call distribution at the airport. Like people like that do so many different things that make us go round. They're more than just sponsors, but I think it would be pretty cool to work for an organization that also sponsors the organization that you volunteer with.
Yeah. And a lot of people that typically, like you said, that do work for us had no clue that they worked for Nationwide. Until this was brought up. And I'm like, they're more integrated than we thought.
Yeah, like Elizabeth and Francis both work there. Jason works there, which you got to talk to. Yeah. Jason.
Well, let's crack into that. I got to talk to Jason about partway through the conversation. Let's see a little bit about his experience with Honor Flight and why Nationwide does what it does. So, you had 2 veterans yourself?
I had one today.
One today, okay.
I had 2, but one had pneumonia.
Okay.
And is on flight restriction.
Great day? Perfect day?
Absolutely great day. So it's November, so a little bit of a chill, but it was sunny. The sky was blue. Everybody was having fun. The veterans, you ask every now and then, are you having a good day? And people say, I'm having a great day, right? And then if they're having a great day, I'm having a great day.
Right? Can't be beat.
It cannot be beat.
Is this your first mission?
This is flight number 10 for me.
Flight number 10. All right.
I try to fly once a year, and I've gotten lucky being able to go on the Nationwide flights. Yep. It's nice because of that commitment, and that's part of the community. So I know like 15 or 16 guardians and some people at the welcome home, and just to be able to, number one, share it with those folks and get them excited, but then also to see that kind of excitement reflected by others at Nationwide. Like yesterday we had a Veterans Day breakfast, and we had over 100 people in the room, and Beth was there. I asked people to raise their hands if they were going on the flight today, or if they were involved in the flight today, and I had over 20 people raise their hands.
That's awesome.
Like it's like part of who we are.
So 10 flights in. How long have you been with Nationwide?
I've been at Nationwide for 14 years.
14 years, perfect.
Yeah.
Is it the last flight?
It's the last flight of the year, but it's not my last flight. Not a chance.
Yeah,
no way, man.
Good. And what's the most memorable thing you would say coming on our flights every single time? What's the one thing you look forward to?
I look forward to everything about the day, no joke, other than getting up at like 4:30 in the morning to get here. There are two things though that stand out to me. One is the wall, the Vietnam Wall. I lose it every single time. It doesn't matter how many times you've done it, but to stand there and present somebody a challenge coin or a lapel pin, I get teary-eyed every single time. The second thing is the welcome home, right? Like it's,
Same.
you cannot experience that and think, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's the end of a super long day and you're exhausted and tired and everybody is running on adrenaline, right? They hear the music, they see the people, and all of a sudden you're up, right? Like 100% I'm in, and it's the greatest thing. Wow. Especially for the Vietnam guys who did not get that.
And you see it on their face, whether
you see it on their face.
Whether it's tears or you can see every emotion, right through their eyes.
100%.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on the flight.
I
appreciate
love
the support
being on
from
the
Nationwide, and look forward to more in the future.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had 2 veterans yourself?
So one of my favorite things about Jason, like he mentioned, not only has he been around for a hot second, he was on his 10th flight, but he is more than just, like I was saying about Miranda, he's more than just a guardian, and he's more than just an advocate for Honor Flight at Nationwide. He does outreach events as well. He's helped me grow the high school program to get that plugged into other high schools and kind of advocate for Honor Flight in some of the local schools. And he's raising children who have those values as well. He let me know that one of his kids applied to be part of the high school program, which is really awesome. And he didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
Yeah. So I think I've always liked to work with him, beyond just, this is a really good guardian who really knows how to interact with vets, but he also, to see him have that, like I mentioned, that advocacy and the voice for the organization at large. I love working with people like that. So I thought that was a really cool conversation you had with him.
Yeah. They were, he was super intent. And like I said, I did not know about the high school advocacy thing as well. It just goes to show, sometimes a lot of people perceive, they're like, oh, Nationwide or bigger companies in there, and they say, they're just coming, this is their first flight, just come see how it is. No, they're, like you said, they are well enveloped in the program, even outside of the program of their flight. So
yeah,
pretty neat.
It is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And he is a big part of that relationship we have with Nationwide and getting his coworkers to buy into this mission. Part of what that sponsorship with Nationwide looks like is employee giving. So the employees are choosing to give part of their paycheck to Honor Flight Columbus. And that's a lot of money we've brought in. I think I heard them say this was their 14th year.
Yep.
So we actually, side note, but related, we got to see kind of this beautiful crossroads of several of our community partnerships come together this week. If you were unaware, the Columbus Metropolitan Library is starting a new initiative in partnership with COSI
Books.
and the National Veteran Memorial Museum, sponsored by Nationwide.
Yep.
And it's called a Service Nook. So if you go to the main branch, you can see it there. They're going to be growing it and putting it in other branches. But this allows students and kids to write letters to veterans, thanking them for their service. They can learn about service through the books that are going to be around in that area. So we went to the unveiling, and I worked with Mason, who kind of headed up this initiative. And I thought the whole presentation of it was amazing. He did an incredible job, not only with the partnerships he's built, but with the presentation of it. And one of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted veterans there. So they invited us to bring a bunch of veterans. So we had about a dozen or so veterans there. And it was amazing to see them all there in their red polo shirts from Flight Day.
Yep.
They got to be
Old polos and new polos.
Old polos and new polos. That's a great point.
Yeah. Polos
and-
before my time, because I looked at one of them. I was like, where did this guy get this rip off polo? But no, it was well before my time.
Yeah. So it was one of the things they did is one of the students who actually has kind of helped lead part of this initiative. I believe his name was Kalen. And the name of the school is escaping me.
Yeah. It's
Cristo Ray.
I believe so.
something like that. Really close to the main branch.
Yep, right across the street.
Yeah. So the students there, they
go there every day.
they go to the library every day. We learn that. But they worked with Mason at National Veterans Memorial Museum to, they wanted to do Christmas cards for the veterans, and they wanted to write to our veterans. And I said, well, Mason, I don't know that they're going to want to do every single veteran. Do they want to do just the last flight? Because that's like almost 80 people. And he's like, no, they want to do every single one. Give me the number and I'll tell the teacher and then she can decide. I was like, okay, it's like 750 people. And they wrote every single veteran from this flight year. So they had all of those ready to give to us, and we'll get those sent out to all our veterans. But I just thought that was a really amazing initiative for him to head up. And then we've invited him to join us for our high school guardian program in the spring.
One individual that had spoken, believe his name was Greg Swank. Is it
Gary
Swank, out of Westerville?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Veteran himself. He
went this fall.
Yes. And when he started talking about what it means, about what letters mean to veterans, really hit me. I guess I've preached it a lot. I've talked about it, a lot, how much it means to the veterans to get those pieces of mail, to get those drawings, I'm a very big advocate of that. However, it really hit me about, he said, he was in the service in the last few years of, Vietnam, following up Vietnam. He said that mail, when it went overseas, something I hadn't thought about before, that when that mail went overseas, he was on a ship, an active ship. I believe he was an officer on the ship. That active time frame, it said that the mail would chase them port to port. Around the Pacific, because they would be so active, they wouldn't get the mail. It would be on ships, and they're like, oh, I wonder if my mail's on that ship. Can't afford to stop. Keep going. So how much that meant, because there was no phone calls, there was no texting, tweeting, Facebook, Instagram.
I think it's called X now.
X. There was no social media or a short range of finding those things. So if the mail didn't find you, it didn't find you. So it means a lot. I mean, that makes it more sentimental for the veterans.
I've always thought too, a note about mail call. I think some people probably think, they get a lot of mail. We don't need their mail. Like on a flight, doesn't need it. But here's what I'll say about mail call. I have always been, full disclosure, in my previous career as an archivist and doing curatorial work, paper and physical objects have always, to me, reflected the intimacy of the human condition and the intimacy of human connection. And so when it comes to mail, something that I hope our volunteers understand, especially the ones that are out there calling family members, letting them know about the opportunity of mail call, but then also the beautiful faces we're greeted every time we get back to the airport for the welcome home, and we see this team of mail call distribution folks. Generally, it's a group of ladies, and they hand out the bags of mail call. But this intimacy of what a letter is, and we've lost that, especially my generation and beyond. We've lost that beauty of the human connection through the written word. And I'm not just talking about, the written word, you type up whatever, but when you actually physically are writing it. And so for veterans, I think what is so special about that is the fact that this was the way that their generations communicated, and that's gone now. And so for them to be able to be served in the way that their generation grew up communicating, I think there's just this incredible...
If you are a younger generation, just think about it. The way you were putting it, I was just thinking about it just now. If you took away all of FaceTime, texting.
Yeah, FaceTime's a big one for this generation.
FaceTime and texting right now, took it all away. This very, very second, snapped your fingers. And then I had to wait for you to write me a letter in the mail. I'd be like... this person hates me, or why haven't I heard from this person?
But also, and along that same vein, thinking about how we take for granted the instant way that we communicate with one another. And so that just adds that extra layer of what the written word represents for our veterans who, like you said, it's chasing them around the Pacific. That was the only hope that they got from their family. Like, that's it. And so I think what you're saying and in combination what we've discussed so far, I just think mail call is such an important element. And so, you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, maybe I don't feel ready, or I don't feel like it's a good fit for me to go on flights, or maybe you feel like I'm not a good outreach volunteer, whatever, just reach out, come into our office and write personalized letters to veterans. You know, more than just thank you for your service. Learn, you know, you can look up a little bit about what their experience was like, you know, a general experience in Vietnam or post-Vietnam or in the Navy or whatever. And even just sharing with a veteran a little bit about you and what your experience of life has been like, because ultimately our experiences exist the way they do because of the service of veterans. And so I think that's why mail call is such an important element. And we've not really talked much about that. So I'm glad that we did. So that was our little mail call tangent.
Yeah. Apologize about that one.
I don't. I think it was a good one. Speaking of mail call, so let's get a little bit into the debrief mission itself, or debriefing the mission itself. So we show up at the airport. We've got, you know, another great group of people. We had a board member, Todd, who also works for Nationwide there as well. It's always good to see our board pouring into this mission more than just from an advisory standpoint, actually seeing them come and serve the vets alongside of us. Reminds us why we're doing what we do. And then that partnership, community partnership with Nationwide just continues to grow the more people that are invested in both organizations.
Correct.
So anyways, airport, we did our thing at the airport.
And we got apple slices from who?
Wendy's. Yeah. Which, I mean, I think everybody has their favorite part of that breakfast. Mine's always the apple slices because it's fresh fruit in the morning. Yep. I like that.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So big shout out to them. Thank you guys for continuing to partner with us that way.
Wendy's in Dublin, I believe, is the one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
So we go up, we load the plane. This was our last flight with, well, this time it was with Allegiant. So we did our last one with Avelo. We flew with Allegiant this time. We will be back with Southwest next year, which, as lovely as our partnerships have been with Allegiant and Avelo, you cannot beat the convenience of A, not using people movers, and B, flying straight into Reagan.
Yep.
DCA is such an easier airport.
Shout out to Reagan.
Shout out to Reagan. We're coming back for you. So anyways, we get on the plane, pretty uneventful, which was amazing. We love uneventful plane rides. And then we hit the ground running. I kind of want to skip a little bit. I mean, we can come back to the day, but in talking about Nationwide, mail call, volunteers, I already mentioned her name, but I kind of want to go back to Miranda. She's been volunteering. Yeah. She's a young woman who's been volunteering with us for a few years now, at least. Like, I feel like, I don't know if she started around when I started as early as 2016, 2018, but she just is one of those faces that I associate with Honor Flight. Like, she's just a core part of what we do. Here. Yeah. So, and I think it's because she's got, you know, her hands in multiple buckets and she's so involved. But this time we kind of chose, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 months ago, we kind of nominated all of the volunteers for the season at once because we wanted to be really intentional about who is going to be presenting the flag at World War II to the eldest veteran. And we wanted to do Miranda on the last flight because she works for Nationwide. We knew she was going to be on the Nationwide flight. And we wanted to recognize her in front of her coworkers too, to let them know, like, here's a person that advocates for Honor Flight, that serves with her whole heart, gives up a lot to be a part of our organization, flies, you know, a couple times a year. So I thought, I forget whose idea it was to actually, like, we all agreed, yeah, we want Miranda to present, but we waited. Whoever's idea that was, maybe Beth or Megan, or maybe it was Celeste. Wasn't mine though, so I won't take credit for it. But I thought that was a really great idea to have her coworkers be a part of that moment as well. And then that kind of is when you talked to our eldest veteran, 99-year-old Bob.
I did.
You talked to him before. I mean, we talked to him several times throughout the day.
I did. I followed Bob several times throughout the day. I had heard early in the morning that he had a great story.
Yeah. So, okay, let's back up. So before the flight, I got a text message from my biology teacher from high school. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. You know, she reached out, whatever. And she's like, yeah, my dad's going to be on the flight, la, la, la. So I, of course, look him up and I look up his information and I see he was a Korean War veteran, and I thought to myself, okay, I wanted to see if he was eligible for the Ambassador for Peace Medal. And in case you're not familiar with that, this is a medal, an award that is given by the South Korean consulate. Yeah, they actually have people who their job is to make sure American veterans are given this honor. Yeah. So they had appointments in Maryland that day, so they couldn't actually come and present it. But Bob was eligible for that. He didn't serve in Korea, but he was in combat during the Korean War. So that's my understanding is why he's eligible for that. So having said that, tell us a little bit about Bob.
Bob.
What about Bob?
Bob is an incredible man. Bob was actually drafted during the Korean War. Mm-hmm. So he was drafted in, and then Bob decided to make a career out of the military. And then he served as a dentist.
Which you need a dentist.
But Bob got to work on some pretty special people throughout the day. And I'm going to actually play a clip. I got to talk with him a lot.
Yeah, let's let him tell his story.
But I wanted to share a kind of interesting story of Bob's throughout. So let's see here.
So Bob, just so we know, 99-year-old Korean veteran, served in the Air Force. I don't think we mentioned his branch.
Yep.
I had the privilege while I was a specialist and a graduate student at Lackland Air Force Base to have two astronauts as my patients. One of them was Alan Shepard, who went to the moon, and the other one was Deke Slayton, who orbited the Earth in a Soyuz Apollo mixture, mixed launch, the Apollo from us and the Soyuz from the Soviet Union, and they linked up and orbited the Earth several times and then separated and came down to their separate bases. I had two crowns in Alan Shepard's mouth that went to the moon, and a fixed bridge in Deke Slayton's mouth, who orbited the Earth. And I had my initials, I carved my initials on the inside of each of those because I figured that these were significant individuals who were going to do significant things someday, and that would be a memorial to me, in a sense, to have my crowns on the moon, which is what turned out to be, or the bridge in orbit. Pretty cool.
And you had put your signature.
And I had carved my initials inside these restorations before I cemented them into their mouths, and I told them at the time that I did that, so it wasn't surreptitious.
So yeah,
that's such a cool story.
Yeah, he was a really cool guy. Lots of neat stories to tell.
And he's got a voice that you just want to listen to.
Yep.
He's such a pleasant man. And I should say, I mean, we're saying he's a Korean War veteran, but like you said, he went in 53 and didn't get out till 79. So that's also Korean or Vietnam era as well.
Yeah. He, like I said, he got drafted, and he's one of those people that got drafted and then decided to make a lifelong, piece out of it.
Yeah.
So pretty neat.
And I always think it's so interesting. I know we've talked about this before, but it still takes me aback when you meet someone like Bob. And it's on a personal note. I was good friends with his granddaughter in high school, and you have this friend and you're just, you do high school girl things together. We did theater together, sleepovers at our house, sleepovers at my house, that kind of thing. And you never really think about the stories of their families.
Right.
She has a cool story. Her parents own the Refectory in Columbus, which is a really great restaurant.
Yeah, I've spoken there a few times.
Wait, really?
Yeah, different places.
I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
French restaurant, very good.
There's an overhead space up top that I've actually spoken on 3 different accounts up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they do, they have live music there. A friend of mine, Ben Lucas, sings there. He's sang for a Honor Flight event last year as well. And anyways, so you just don't really think beyond maybe their parents' stories, because her parents had some really incredible stories I remember hearing, but you don't necessarily go to the generation behind, and you don't really think about that, especially as a kid. And so it was kind of interesting as I heard him talk, thinking about, wow, like his stories and the way that he lived influenced the way he raised his children, and then influenced how his children raised their children. And it's going to continue going on. And so when you see and you look in the eyes of these veterans, it's just the amount of life that is represented in their eyes. It's just wild. And sometimes it just, I don't know, it takes me a second. I just think about that and reflect on that. But yeah, he was a really special, and he had so many stories.
Yeah.
He had some really great stories.
Yeah, he did.
So, speaking of a lot of stories, so let's rewind, take us back to the airport, got on the bus, Air Force. So if, in case you've been following along,
We got to see our bus drivers.
oh yeah, got to see our bus drivers, which we need to reach out because Michael he's in the process of finishing his doctorate.
Yes, he is.
And he had,
I asked him if I could call him doctor about 20 times on the trip. And he said,
he's like, shut up.
Yeah, he said he's pretty uncomfortable with it, but he will go with it. And I said, thank you, doc.
Thanks, Doc. So he is going to be, he's a conductor. He is a conductor and is a musician.
Yeah. Choo, choo.
But he had an interview this week at a university. So
Choo, choo.
we'll have to, not that kind of conductor.
Oh, not train.
I don't know. Maybe ask him. Maybe he does that too.
Okay.
But anyways, so we saw the bus drivers. In case you've been following along, the government has been shut down for a while. It is no longer shut down, and it was no longer shut down when we got there.
I had no clue. I really had no clue.
Yes, you did, because we talked about it.
Really?
Yeah, because remember the food drives that we saw because the federal workers were having to work, but they
I
didn't
had no
have
clue
money.
when they were shut down and when they weren't.
They weren't being paid. Like literally, so many people were not being paid.
Hey,
because,
I'm in with current news.
yeah. Well, also we talked about this on the last podcast. So, anyways, the Air Force Memorial was shut to us, and that's why we went and stopped at the Pentagon on the last flight, or 2 flights ago in 147. So I assumed that Air Force would still be closed. Thankfully, Air Force was open.
It was,
We were
and-
able to go take our Air Force veterans like Bob to see their memorial, which was amazing. It was good to be back.
If I ever have the chance,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to record the gentleman at the front gate that I had mentioned before, because I went down and spoke with him again when
Yeah.
everyone was doing
That would be
everything.
cool.
I
Do
went
an
down,
interview with him.
Yeah, I went down and spoke with him.
Because he helps a lot of honor flights. I mean, every honor flight.
He does, and he is flown for. He was the crew chief, and
amazing.
flown with Lincoln, or not Lincoln, with Clinton, with Bush Senior.
Lincoln.
Yeah,
Timeline wrong.
yeah. No, the pictures that he has shaking hands with.
Oh,
and he was the crew chief of
cool.
Air Force One for Clinton, for
What?
George. Yeah. You guys were off at one time, and
okay,
I got
we need
to
to
get
do
all
an
the
interview.
stories. Yeah.
We're gonna do that on the next mission.
Great man.
That's really cool. So we saw Air Force, and then we went from Air Force to. Did we go to Iwo Jima next? Yes, and then did Arlington. Something. Okay, so because I complain about.
Iwo Jima's in the evening.
No, we didn't do it in the evening. Did we? Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. It was in the evening. Anyway, so we went to Arlington, and I have complained almost every podcast probably about interacting with the students and how that can be really frustrating because they're not mindful of space and time and all this stuff. I will say this flight, their teacher, so we got to Arlington, there's tons of students. They're taking up all the space at Changing of the Guard. Megan and I always go back and move them. And Megan was slower to get back because she was, I could say she was dealing with a situation, but she lost her phone. She found it though. So anyways, I went back to do it, and there was and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And I spoke to the teacher.
Yeah. So the teacher comes down and asks, are you taking pictures? And I was like, yeah, but we didn't know it was a teacher. I thought it was Arlington. Long story short, he said, don't worry.
Yep. That's why I lined him up this way. And he said, all I have to do is tell him 2 steps back. And he did.
Yeah.
The
And they
students got
moved
up
right
and
away.
they moved right back. Yep.
So that was amazing. That is somebody who's.
I walked up to him afterwards and I said, I've been doing this for a long time now.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. And I said, it's never gone smoothly. He goes, trust me. He goes, I've been doing this tour with these kids for 32 years. And he goes, I know what I'm doing. And I said, well, it's never gone that smoothly. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So.
Just that extra step. And I think too, it's the kids, when they're prepared to move, they just have a better attitude. They're educated about it. And it's the best thing that you can do for the kids too, not just us. So thank you.
Yeah. There are some good kids out in there in the world.
Yeah.
Haley.
And good. I know, right? How humbling of me. And great teachers. So thank you guys for that. Making that transition smooth. It's the little things like that I hate confronting people on an honor flight. The only reason I do it is to advocate for the veterans. So it was just lovely that was so smooth. So we did the Changing of the Guard. We actually had a veteran who had a loved one buried at Arlington this time, which I think probably happens more than we know, but
Yeah, I never ask.
Yeah, we don't usually ask because it's a huge cemetery and we can't stop at all the important graves, obviously. But it was special to know that, you know, he was there, and I don't believe that he had been to Arlington since the burial, but I'm not sure on that. And then we did lunch at Navy. And then at Navy, they were doing the food drive again, weren't they?
Yep, they were. They
Yeah.
were doing it for 2 more days.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you always talk to them and get the information. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Some of us tried
I just
new.
would see if they had extra food.
Oh my gosh. You're like, do I look like a federal worker?
Yeah, right.
Nonprofit,
I just
unpaid
act-
federal worker?
I'm
same
like,
thing.
hey, we've got these kind of cookies. You mind trading? You know, sort of.
They're like, someone please take this one. We tried some new food. Ace brought us several different things to try, so we were able to see what options we want to do next year.
I had beef and cheese,
Mm-hmm.
or beef and melted cheese.
Yeah,
It was
cheddar. I think it was beef and cheddar or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think the chicken salad's my favorite from his. But anyways, I wanted to kind of bring up, because at every stop we went to, I think I saw him speaking with someone. We had a veteran. He went by the name Jaw,
Oh.
and he was a Green Beret.
Oh yes, I saw him.
Yeah, he was on
earlier in the day. He was wearing a cavalry.
Yeah,
First Cav hat.
And he was on our bus, my bus, and he had a really great repertoire going with Terry, our bus leader, and or rapport. Sorry, not repertoire, rapport. And every stop we went to, I saw him sharing a story with somebody, and he was Vietnam. And the man, I mean, when we say he was a Vietnam veteran, he was in combat and carries the effects of that with him through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And he did not want to see the wall and didn't want to be near the wall. So Megan spent some time sitting with him by Lincoln. And when you and I left Vietnam towards the end to go back to the buses, we saw him at Lincoln, and he's surrounded by students. I mean, their eyes were wide open. You went to go help another veteran, so I went over to see what was going on. And Megan's like, yeah, he's just been talking. Like, he's just chit-chatting with these veterans and seeing the students hear his stories. And I was disappointed because I personally never really got much of an opportunity to speak with him. However, on what day is this? So that was Thursday. So this was on Monday. I got an email from him. And it is it's his whole story. And he starts it out talking about, and he gave pictures too, and he's talking about, he says, this letter's been written to assist you in understanding my PTSD. It's an account of my combat experiences in Vietnam. I've attempted to recount those situations which were most traumatic. Understandably, at this point in my life, it is extremely difficult for me to recall accurately the precise timing of those experiences. The fact is, for all these years, I've tried to forget they occurred. Certain events do stand out, and during those lonely, quiet times, the memories do come back to haunt my soul. What is especially difficult for me to deal with is the movies and television shows about Vietnam. I refuse to go see them. And then he goes on to talk a little bit about just his experience as a veteran, when there are loud noises like a jackhammer, an automobile backfiring. Sometimes he'll duck or even dive for cover. And then specifically, he calls out the 4th of July fireworks, which once I started working with veterans, it really became alarming to me how unaware we are as an American public. You know, we're celebrating America's independence, and we're celebrating the service of people. I mean, it's a patriotic holiday. And then we do fireworks, which is really difficult for veterans. Just something to keep in mind when you put off your own fireworks. But anyways, I really like this line. He said, you might ask yourself why I did not seek help sooner. All I can tell you is that throughout my life, I've tried to do the best I could without asking for help. However, I finally began to ask myself why. And then he goes into a list of things of whys that he struggled with his whole life. He talks about finding himself in these positions where he can feel like I'm close to losing control. I don't want to get to that point. I want help. So he said, finally, I decided to understand what my experiences in Vietnam had done to my attitude and my way of solving problems. I had to admit that I was suffering physically as well as mentally. And I feel like that line took such bravery to admit to himself and now to admit to others. And he kind of ends this letter, which you should read sometime. And he ties, I'll just read his words. This is the prologue he provided. I believe it is important to note that I started this process of seeking my treatment for PTSD in 1986. The motivation came as a direct result of the unexpected death of my 12-year-old son from a heart attack while demonstrating for his mom that he could run so fast that she would let him try out for the school track team, so that she would let him try out. This was a life-shattering event for me, and I realized that I was so traumatized and unstable. And then that's when he started realizing how close he was to losing control and just feeling not the way he wanted to feel anymore. And so I wanted to kind of bring that whole story up, one, because everywhere we went, the way that this man shared his story with bravery and courage, knowing the trauma. And I didn't even get into the experiences that he had in Vietnam. But also how his life after service impacted his memories of service. Because our veterans, I think so many of them, I mean, we talked to one here. Like you said, we just moved to this new building. A veteran who works somewhere else in this building came in and was talking to Megan and I and Celeste, and he, introduced himself, and he's like, yeah, my wife says I should go on an honor flight, but, I've worked really hard to forget everything. I don't really want to step back into it. And that's where I think it's so many of our veterans have tried to compartmentalize their lives, when the reality is, like, you can't just shut that off and have it not impact you. I mean, with anything, whether it be trauma or just celebratory life events, right? Like, all of these things make us who we are. And so watching our veterans be able to take part of their honor flight, taking these, as Jaw said, these haunting memories from the past and pairing them with this moment of honor and celebration. I just can't imagine what the impact of that would be, and how it kind of connects experiences of your service with experiences of life after service, both contemporary and past.
I could think too how a lot of times, a lot of these veterans, you say thank you for your service. Mixed reactions I've had from members over the years.
Yeah.
Some of them, say thank you very much, or, your generation doesn't normally thank me, thank you. And some individuals, you can tell, have shut it off so much that they don't want to hear,
right,
thank you for your service. Because honestly, they don't want to be thanked for what they did or what they feel like they did.
Or they don't feel like they should be thanked.
Yes. Or a lot of them, like you said, a lot of them want to shut off the memories of the things that they did that they didn't believe in, or they wish they had not done, and they don't want to be thanked for those sort of things.
You're right. And I think it comes to this point of, thank you for your service. Thank a veteran. We honor you for your service. I mean, you say these things, and as a society in general, we say these things. What are we actually meaning when we say that? And when you realize, like, when I read some of these children's mail and they're saying, thank you for your sacrifice, and you stop for a second and you think about that sacrifice, the sacrifice isn't always just time away from family or life.
Yeah.
Sometimes the sacrifice is what they will carry with them
The rest of their life.
every day for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Like Jaw.
Yeah. Sacrificing happiness in moments where
Yeah.
they should feel happy, but
Or
they can't.
peace. Like, they'll never feel the same level of peace
Yep.
before they went into the service. And that's what a lot of them say. However, there is hope when we share our human condition with each other, like we were talking about with Mail Call, through the resources now that we have at our disposal. I mean, just the stigma that, obviously stigma around mental health still exists, but the idea that it is less of a stigma to be able to say, hey,
Correct.
I need help. And actually today is International Men's Day, and part of that, not the entirety of that. I mean, it is the celebration of the contributions of men in general. But part of that, you know, there is this piece of stigma around men's mental health. And especially when you apply it to generations that I would say even your generation, but then like my parents' generation, and of course the generation of our veterans, you know, it's not something, you know, toughen up and be masculine and be quiet, right? Like don't show your emotions, don't cry about it. And Honor Flight is this place that not only our veterans can have these moments of expressing their emotions, but so can our volunteers. And being able to celebrate, whether you're a man or a woman, like being able to celebrate who you are at your core, being comfortable around these people, because all of us are carrying heavy emotions, whether they be our own experiences or the experiences of our veterans. That's what connects us back to this concept of the human condition and the complexities of having these intimate moments between humans. Right. And that's a big part of it. And so I think we've talked about there's healing at the wall. Sometimes, like for Jaw, the healing came at Lincoln.
Yeah.
You know, or for me, the healing in my life has come from, you know, bus rides where people are laughing and smiling, or, you know, the hug of a bus driver who says, "Hey, I see you." Or just sitting and hearing the story of someone else.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I totally agree.
So we did have several moments at the Vietnam Wall that people, you know, we always do. But it always feels like it's for the first time for me. And maybe that's going to be my cue for when I should, you know, step out of this line of work. When I worked with Holocaust studies, I always said I would stop doing that work when I went numb to it, because that would mean I'm not good at it anymore. And truth be told, I never did get numb from it. So I hope that's the way that it goes here. But if it ever becomes routine to go to the Vietnam Wall, that's when I'll know it's, you know, I'm not in the appropriate headspace anymore and giving these veterans the day they deserve. We had some groups go down, find rubbings. We actually had one of our high school students from Mission 146 reached out to me and said his veteran was unable to find the name on the wall because he couldn't remember the name. And so the high schooler reached out to me and said, his name is Brady. And he said, "Hey, he remembered the name. Would you be able to get a rubbing?" So I had Terry Higgins take care of that rubbing. It's one of the most well-done rubbings I've actually ever seen. So if you need a rubbing, Terry Higgins is your person. But seeing that intention of, hey, your honor flight might've already happened, but like, you're still remembered and I'm still thinking about your experience, you know, and for a student to be a part of that. So we were able to do that at the wall. So again, really great experiences at the Vietnam Wall. Jason kind of gave the weather report, which we usually always start with the weather report. It was a beautiful day. It was cool, but the sun was out. It was a little windy, but I think that ultimately it was another really successful flight day that culminated with our dinner at the Women's Military Memorial. We had 5 women, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about this, so now that we've started as part of the partnership, so if you would like to sponsor one of our service women, it is $35 now. The price went up because we're including a pin. It is a member's pin, because once your story is registered, you become a member of the museum and the memorial. So one of them was actually a charter member. So she had registered her story when the museum first became into existence. And then we just updated it with some more personal details about her service. And that was cool to be able to see a charter member mixed in with these other service ladies. They were a fun group. This was a really chatty group. Yeah. So they were cool all day. And then we went from there, and then we went back to Dulles Airport. It's weird when you get to the last flight of the year because it's so dark. Like it feels like nighttime by the time you get to dinner, and then you come out from dinner and you feel like, you know, it's midnight. It's pitch black.
I don't want to forget and oversee too that our bus leader Damien did send us pictures of him as a Marine.
Oh yes.
And if I could add them somehow, I will onto this video.
Okay. So we have to say,
if you are watching this
Damien
on YouTube,
wasn't even on
YouTube
this
and there's a video, just know at the very end, there's going to be clips. I'm adding clips of Damien as a Marine.
Wait, we should go back and we should make a reel of Damien someday.
We should.
Okay, Damien, we're going to start finding you on flights and following you. We already were doing that.
Yeah. Damien the Marine, as I call him.
So on the last podcast, he was a bus leader on that flight. And on the last one, we mentioned how Damien loves to see pictures, or not see pictures of himself, send pictures of himself. So he sent us on flight day a selection of some really great pictures.
Yeah, I was standing at the wall and I said, who the heck is texting me right now? And it
Over
was
and
Damien.
over and over.
Yep, it was Damien.
That was awesome.
It was younger Damien.
Baby Damien.
Baby Damien.
Yeah, that would be a treat. Definitely put those up there.
Yep.
So we get back to the Columbus airport and I feel like I've never said it this way, but your day, like to walk out and hear the applause, you feel the success and the admiration of the public that not only is there at the airport, but that put these veterans on the flight to begin with. So that's it's a very special thing, especially to work for Honor Flight. And then you show up and you're like, wow, yeah, this is a really important job,
Not a
whether
lot
you're
of people
volunteer
get
or
that at their
staff.
job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So true. Instant gratification.
Yeah, somebody might get a high on the way to the water cooler, but that's about it.
Which, if you want to sponsor a water cooler, I'm trying to get a water cooler in the office. Megan says she likes her water warm though. Yeah. And she's like, but that's okay. I guess I could just sit it out in my cup and leave it there. And I was like, that's fine, but we should get a water cooler. So if you want, Damien, if you want to keep getting shout outs on our podcast, you can sponsor shout outs by sending us a water cooler.
Yeah. Or sponsor the next season.
Or the next season.
Mission Debrief.
Yeah. And maybe Specialty Gas House will want us to continue our partnership too. So
we're hoping so.
Open.
Hey, Specialty. Hey, Nationwide.
Bateau, and who else can we name drop? No, in all seriousness, what an incredible, not only fall flight season, but the year that we've had. Coming up next is our 2026 flight season. Dates to be announced. Maybe we'll do a special episode and just talk dates and sponsors. In addition, if you forgot to bless your mom or your grandma or your neighbor with something this holiday season, you still have, I think, a couple of days to order poinsettias from the Washington Township Poinsettia Drive. Also, Friday the 21st at the Valleydale Ballroom, there's going to be a special Veterans Day event. Big band music playing, patriotic music playing, dedicated to our veterans. Free entrance fee for veterans. So definitely check that out. Other than that, we'll see ya.
Yeah. Happy 2025.
Yeah.
We hope every veteran that went with us on the trip over this past year, you had an amazing time. It was life-changing. I know it was for us. And we appreciate every single one of you, every volunteer, every sponsor. And we hope to see you again next season.
We couldn't do it without you.
We'll see you later. My name's Alex.
And this is Haley.